Today, we're going to be taking a look at the latest technology in the coilover industry and hopefully choosing a new upgrade for our BMW F80 M3. With the GT4 series that's been extremely time consuming over the last year, our BMW F80 M3 has taken a bit of a back seat. So we are keen to get that up and running again, as we have so many modifications planned for that car and we really want to make it into a real track weapon. We're going to be still doing the upgrades one by one as we did previously and with our GT4 project, so we can show you the difference that each upgrade physically makes to that chassis. The issue we currently have with the F80 M3 is on the roads, and we mentioned this in episode 1, is that it's extremely harsh and crashy. So when we're driving down the road on the motorway, we'll hit a compression and it feels rock solid. Whereas when we're going through a corner, it has the opposite effect. It feels too soft and it wallows around through the corners. So we end up with this mishmash of damping versus spring, and it's effectively overdamped and undersprung. That's how it feels to drive. So it doesn't feel like it has enough stiffness to carry the car at speed through the corner, but then in a straight line, you don't get comfort along with that softness because the damper's so stiff. So you end up in this position where it doesn't really do a good job in either scenarios. So we're very, very keen early on in this build process to swap out the dampers. So when we're looking into the industry for upgrades for the dampers, there's a few different options. You've got direct damper replacement units where it's effectively not adjustable at all. It's just a different internal valve that's completely fixed and it swaps out for the OEM damper unit. So that's quite a nice upgrade if you're just using that car on a daily basis and you want compliancy. That's quite a cost-effective route to take. After that, looking into the coilover industry, you've got two main routes, especially with the F80 M3, which has EDC, a standard that's electronic controlled dampers. You have a button in the car to go between Comfort, Sport and Sport Plus, and it gets progressively firmer as you press that button. With the progressive rate dampers, that's effectively a system that deletes the electronic system from the car, and you use physical dials on the damper to tune how the car uses its compression and its rebound valving. There's different options in that category too. So you have anything from a one-way to a two-way to a three-way and beyond as well, but we'll stop there for the sake of this explanation. The other side of the fence is the electronic damper ranges that are available as well. So this is where you plug the coilover unit back into the OEM harness and your button inside the car that controls how stiff the damper is works. However, this is quite limited in terms of on-track performance or getting the front to rear distribution splits by using that damper adjustment, because it effectively makes it soft, medium and stiff. And it's just sort of three options, and often in the aftermarket, the soft version is actually a lot more compliant than the stock shock, so it is worth upgrading to get the compliancy, and then it's a lot stiffer than the stiff as well for track use. So you do get a benefit to go into the aftermarket EDC dampers. However, what really got our attention and why we're here today is that down here at Nitron, they've actually blended the two technologies together. So you can get an EDC coilover, which will work with the ECU and it will work like we've just mentioned, and you can buy from them a passive damper like a R1, R3, where you have your one-way or your three-way adjustment on the shock and you delete the kit. But what they've also recently engineered is the Electron R1 and R3 range. This has blended the two technologies together. So the coilover itself can plug into the car and it can be controlled by the button and increase the stiffness and the softness of the entire damper curve, but you still have the passive adjusters to fine-tune how the chassis actually works. So really exciting piece of technology, and that's why we're here, to speak to the engineers and find out a little bit more about how that's going to apply to our car, fix our issues, and we're going to see how we can involve that into the project. So I'm with Curtis now, who's the Automotive Development Manager here at Nitron. And he's just going to talk to us a little bit more about the new Electron damper range and how they work in sort of not too much detail,
Sure.
But yeah, how they work and how they operate.
Okay, so the beauty about the Electron range is they work with all our existing architecture. So we developed a valve which goes straight into our 26 years of experience of shock absorbers. And this particular valve is a direct plug-in for the Porsche PASM system and the BMW EDC system, as well as a few others such as Aston Martin. It's a proportional valve, so it isn't just an on-off solenoid. Yeah. It works between 300 and 1800 milliamps and gives us full control of the damper between those settings.
Nice. So effectively, in a car with an EDC button such as our M3, you've got like your damper stiff and your damper soft button, but yours basically has a different range. You've designed a different valve
Yes, yeah. So it works in the same way as what the original BMW or Porsche valve would work. And the button that you're pressing is simply going hard or soft. But in the background with the EDC system and the later Porsche PASM systems, they have a semi-active control. So it is adjusting the damping depending on what you're doing as a driver. So to driver inputs, so braking, accelerating, cornering, and anything that you're doing, it has got.
So it's watching like the yaw rate, steering angle,
Exactly
G-force, and then it's going stiffer, softer, and it's playing with that.
So that is exactly that. So what that allows us to do is take that information that the car is giving the shock absorber and build a shim stack or a setting around it to what we feel is a better setting that it's more usable for road or track or whatever you find that you want it to be. Yeah.
And so you have a few different models in the Electron range, and from my perspective, just with suspension tuning that we've done, I'm a massive fan and advocate for passive dampers, so using clicks, so you can get like the front to rear distribution set, you can fine tune your rebound just to get the chassis exactly how you want it to work.
Absolutely.
I like high speed compression, bleed the curbs off, but keep it nice on the low speed. So that's always been my favoured approach. And then the Electron kits are more like, it's sort of like a road kit in my mind where you just press a button and it's stiffer or softer. But you guys now have sort of changed that whole game a little bit because you've introduced the Electron damping into passive systems as well with the R1 and the R3 kit.
So using our architecture again, and it's kind of the proven system that we've been working with for years. The Electron valve can work in conjunction with an external canister. So that allows the end user to set their base point of damping on high and low speed compression. And the valve then has a global change of the damping. So the base point, whether you want to be on circuit or on road or just have more finite setup.
So basically we can fit the dampers to the car. We can use the passive clicks like bump and rebound physical clicks to get the car rotating how we want, get the nose working, get the front to rear distribution set. But then when we're on the road, we can press a button and we can move that damper curve we've just made with the clicks. We can just move it down and make the whole car more compliant, more comfortable. And then when we get to track, we can press the button again and move it back up and get it aggressive. And we can keep the handling distribution right. So you can tune the distribution and then keep it comfy. So it's basically like the ultimate compromise. It's quite exciting really that you can apply that to a car now and not only tune the damping physically, but then have it comfy or stiff as well.
And then if you add in a separate control system to it, like the Electron controller, we have full control over the electronics as well. So we're not reliant on what Porsche or BMW are giving you.
Yes, like the DSC controllers, that sort of thing.
Like the DSC, we've manufactured our own system in conjunction with an Italian manufacturer who specialise in that area. And it's an excellent bit of kit, and it has integrated 3-axis accelerometers and yaw sensors in there. So you can simply fit that system to any vehicle, and we can turn your passive car into an electronic system.
Okay, so like for like an F87 M2, for example, doesn't have EDC like an M3, M4, but you can fit the module into the car and generate, so you can fit the R3s with the passive and the electronic, but that electronic is controlled by a module separately.
Absolutely, yeah. So we can do everything from our Electron Road Sport kit, which uses the OEM rubber top mounts, our Electron R1 kit, which is a coilover with solid top mounts, and our R3 system can do the whole range.
Awesome. Okay, so bringing it back to our project then, so sort of we're here to discuss not only us guys working together more, but also our M3, F80 M3 project. And the biggest thing, when we first bought that car, episode 1, we could not believe how crashy the OEM dampers are. And as soon as we said that online, so many customers got in touch saying, that is so right, that's so on the money, that they feel too soft through a corner, like undersprung. But then when you hit a bump, it feels rock solid, like it's over damped, and it's a real issue. Them dampers are just really off the mark. So as an early stage in this process, we definitely want to upgrade the shocks. And I think as soon as I heard about this kit in particular, the R1, R3 Electron kit for that car, I was like, that is it. That has to go on the car. So definitely interested in replacing those really crashy standard dampers with the kit.
Yeah, absolutely. We've done all the hard work for you, so you can effectively just bolt all this on and it will work. I know that you guys really specialise in what you're doing, so I'm sure that you'll want to make some small changes to make it your own kit. But absolutely, the hard work's all been done already.
So and in terms of that crashy aspect, it might be worth no better man to ask than you. So where does that come from? So we know they're overdamped undersprung, but what's physically making that damper rock solid over a bump, but then when you're going through a corner, it's wallowing around?
Yeah. So a lot of it comes from BMW have to adapt for every country, really. So the ride height, whatever terrain that you're using the car on. You know, in some countries the roads are quite smooth. Here they're quite bad, and even worse in other countries. So BMW have to adapt to everybody's driving style, whereas we can really pinpoint what we want. Also the cost of the damper. The BMW shock absorber is quite a cheap damper. Within reason, there's no cost involved with what we're doing. We have to obviously hit a price point, but we use a gas pressurized monotube damper with like a high quality oil, higher tolerances, so it's a much better shock absorber to begin with. So whereas the BMW damper is just a mass produced shock.
Jumping on that, you said your layout of damper there. What is the OEM damper's layout internally?
The OEM damper is an aluminium sleeve with effectively a twin tube in the middle of it. So it is displacing oil into the secondary tube. So it is a cheaper damper to manufacture.
And that can lead to aeration quite easily as well, because you're mixing it up and down. So so that's where it can fade. If you're on track, you'll feel the damper really drop off, and the springs will overtake the damper, and they can get a bit wallowy.
We also have the ability to tune the spring rates. So you can choose whatever spring rate that you want, and we can adapt it to work with that shock.
So with the shocks that we're going to fit to the F80 M3, they obviously plug in to the OEM harness, and then they use the ECU that BMW, and that sort of uses their inputs to control the shock. But say for the kit for the F87 M2, you said you have your own standalone controller, which is like the BMW's brain, but it's your own. So is that like mappable? Could you custom tune that? On the fly, effectively.
So with the EDC system that BMW supply, we're totally at their mercy. We have to work with all the inputs and outputs that BMW have pre-programmed in the past. With our control unit, we have full control over the calibration files. So it switches between 6 calibration files, 3 that are passive fixed, and 3 that are semi-active, so they have adaption. And we can actually change how much adaption you can give between files, front to rear. You can change the...
So you can prioritize which adaptive you want to focus on in a certain scenario.
Anything you want, So if one customer wants very much a range setting, and then a sport setting, or even an all-out track setting, which is almost undrivable on the road, no problem at all. But the detail that we can actually go down to with the calibration is that we can change the yaw angle and the speed of yaw change into the corner and exit of the corner. So it's fully programmable.
That's awesome. So I think it's worth mentioning from an external perspective then that BMW spent a lot of time developing that, because I know people might be watching thinking, well, surely BMW spent millions developing that software.
They have,
and that's better than doing it yourself. But obviously the answer to that is, like we've already sort of touched on, is they've developed that to work on the road, to work on the ice, to work, in all these conditions. Whereas if you're using your car for a purpose, which in most cases in our industry is sort of fast road use or track use, effectively. So what we're sort of saying there is you could use that controller on an M2, for example, which doesn't have electronic shocks as standard, and you could really hone in on exactly what you want from that chassis. So
comfort's always an aspect in what we're doing. So we want people to be happy with what they're driving. And I'd say if you're using a road car, most of the time you're using it on the road. You've got your family in there, you're going shopping. You don't want to be worn out when you get there. So comfort's really important. So the reason why we have our own control system is now we have full capability to have a fully comfortable mode and a race mode. And everything in between, and it's fully programmable. We can calibrate it ourselves via a laptop, a normal way of doing it, and it's very quick and easy to do. So.
And is that standalone unit? Does that talk to the ECU as well, so you can pull in like throttle position, or is
it has got CAN bus? So we're not using the CAN bus on the BMW system. We use CAN bus for some other vehicles. And if you've got like a Motec engine management system or something like that, we can link to the CAN bus system. but all of the sensors that we need to use are inside. We do connect to brake and throttle and steering angle if we can, but this is all development. Every car is different, so moving forward, more of that will come.
Yeah, well, it's really exciting because obviously it's quite a new range, isn't it? Like last year it came in really. So it's quite new in the development cycle. So it's quite exciting really that in a couple of years' time, that's going to be even further along. You might even be able to like tune throttle input so you can account for engine rotation, similar to like a McLaren system, how its brain works. And
for drag racing, for instance, you can have different calibration files for how far you are on the drag strip.
So you could get the initial squat off the line, and as you go through the gears, it could level out. And
exactly, yeah.
That's awesome. And I guess I'm just going a bit off piece here, but you could eventually start tying in like aero into the equation as well.
Yeah, I've not done that.
But that, you know, like if you had a linear potentiometer on the damper,
you can do all that.
Like that would be awesome. Okay, really, really exciting. I've gone a bit far off track there, but I got carried away. But yeah, I think definitely we need to get a kit on our car, get testing. We'll do it before and after. We'll think about a nice way of portraying that as well. Like we need to sort of show. I know it's hard to measure comfort and harshness, but we'll try. Obviously, we're going to show on the dyno, aren't we, when we get round to that, the difference between the OEM. So that's quite a nice way of showing the difference. We'll think of a way of trying to portray the difference visually as well, just to really tie it up nicely. But yeah, we're really looking forward to getting that kit on. So yeah, can't wait.
Perfect.
We've had a great day down here at Nitron, taking a look at the different options and the range and getting into some of the technical details on the new Electron damper range. So we're going to be going for the Electron Nitron R3 coilover kit. So that's the sort of top end of that Electron range that they offer. So we'll have the independent rebound bump and high speed bump passive adjustment with the in-car adjustment as well to move it in 3 stages in terms of stiffness with the electronic side. So really, really excited to get that kit on the car. All the kits are built to order here in the UK within this building. So we've ordered the kit now, so that's going to be built. So we will be back soon to get that kit fitted to the car, and we're going to come up with some really interesting ways to show that before and after as well, so we can show you exactly the difference that the kit makes to the car. So really excited to get the kit on, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on this next upgrade.